Hey everybody, I'm Alice Ford, and I am so glad to be back here with you on my adventure travel chat series. Now, today I am joined by Lia and Jeremy from the amazing travel blog Practical Wanderlust. I'm so happy to have you guys here. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Now, if you guys aren't familiar with Lia and Jeremy offer fantastic advice on places all over the world. And that's kind of why I wanted to chat with you guys today, because you are one of the most successful blogging couples that I personally know. And I've actually gotten to travel with Lia before. We went to Norway together last year, which was such an amazing trip.
That was absolutely amazing. And I do feel bad because I kind of brought my bad luck with me along to Norway. We ended up crashing a snowmobile in the middle of the Arctic. But I did get it on camera. So I feel like that was your magic a little bit helping us out.
I think people love you because you laugh at yourself and you have such an easy time laughing even in the face of, sometimes these funny mishaps that happen, because we all have mishaps when we travel. Some of us aren't so easy to laugh at them as others.
Well, when they happen on every single trip, you kind of just have to learn to accept it and find the humor in it, I guess.
At this point, it's weird when nothing goes wrong.
Yes. Then I feel the whole time I'm on edge, I'm like, something's going to happen.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how you guys got into blogging and how you came into traveling. So I think it all began kind of right after you guys got married, right? On your year-long honeymoon?
Yeah, so I grew up traveling, and I kind of knew for years that I wanted to take a once-in-a-lifetime trip. I wanted to quit my job and travel for a year. And so I had been planning this after I graduated college, went into the working world, I started saving. And when I met Jeremy, I told him about it on our second date. I was just just so you know, in case this is going anywhere serious, I'm going to be leaving to travel for a really long time. Just kind of making myself look cool, but also being really honest. And he was just like, oh, that sounds fine. I'll come too. And I was like, okay.
I didn't up and say I'll come too on the second date. You always say it was 6 weeks in.
Okay, fine. Fifth date, whatever. Anyway, he was just like, yeah, I'm down. Even though he had actually never left the time zone. He did not grow up traveling. So it was I think you were just I don't really know if you thought it was going to happen. I don't think you thought I was serious.
No, I thought you were serious. I guess it was hard for me to wrap my mind around what's actually involved with long-term travel. And it started to freak me out as the day actually came. I was like, because my family, we're from California. We have relatives all over California. So we're used to just road tripping around. So for me, travel was we'll load up a SUV and go for a week. But then once I started actually thinking about the logistics of oh, we're going to pack up everything.
Yeah.
And
well,
that
I'd
sort
never
of
done
thing.
that
I started to get really freaked out about that.
Yeah, so we decided to make it our honeymoon. So we got married, quit our jobs, hopped on a plane, and started a blog around the same time as we quit our jobs. I actually kept it secret because I didn't want any, I was paranoid that somebody would find it and out me. But anyway, we traveled for a year for our honeymoon, and it was pretty much a disaster. Lots of ridiculous things happened. But the whole time that we were traveling, I was working really hard on the blog. I just kind of got addicted to it. And so that kind of became my full-time job while we were traveling. And by the time we got back, it was making a teeny amount of money. And I told Jeremy that I told you that I was going to make $1,000, and you were like, you can't do that in a whole year, $1,000. And I was like, no, in a month, every month. And he was like, you can't do it. And I was like, challenge accepted. And then I did it. And the rest is history.
I just didn't really at that time think it was possible to make money off of the blog, because my knowledge of blogs was so small at the time. And you started it mainly so that we can just for keepsakes and tell stories and have all these memories.
Just as a hobby.
Yeah, it was
and you obviously did a great job, because your blog is really successful. And I think a lot of people look to you guys for advice on how to start a blog and how to monetize a blog. What are some of the things that you learned in that first month that really helped you in getting to that first goal of making $1,000?
Honestly, the hardest part, and I tell this to everybody who's looking to start a blog, the hardest thing is publishing your first blog post, because it's not that's step one. That's step 50, right? First you have to create the blog and get the domain and get the hosting, and there's all this technical stuff. Then you have to go take pictures and write. It's all this work before you even get to hit publish the first time. So if you can make it through all of that and hit publish, you're already doing great. And if you can do it a few more times, you're doing better than most people that want to start a blog. So just getting started is like the hardest thing. And actually, it's kind of funny. I didn't start Practical Wanderlust for the first time right before we left for our honeymoon. I started it for the second time. The first time was 3 years before that, when I had an idea to start a travel blog, and I bought the domain and I put it all up and I put in half the work. Well, I put in a lot of work, but I broke the site and I couldn't figure out how to get it to not be a white screen. And so I just gave up, and I let practicalwanderlust.com sit empty for 3 years. And then it wasn't until we started traveling that I was like, all right, let me try this again. So it took me 3 years to get my first blog post up, honestly. And it truly was the hardest thing, but it does get easier, I promise.
I also think that I think that there's a tendency to say like, I want to start this blog about this thing, and then like want to jump right into making money with it. And like, I looked back, like we've now fixed it, but a few years ago, I looked back at our old posts and I was just like, we wrote like that? Like, it was very like
everybody's first posts are awful.
And, you know, so like, I think that that's actually a good thing, is then you get stuff out, and like your site has some life, and then you can, it's like trying to make a pot without like throwing the clay first almost, you know. I don't really understand that's a weird word, but like,
no, I agree with you, because I look back sometimes at some of my, like the first couple of posts I put in my blog, and yeah, I mean, the writing was god awful. I mean, I didn't know anything about SEO or like how to write for the internet. And so I would just be like, oh my God, so I went to Chicago. I ate at these great restaurants. Here's some photos of my steak.
Totally. My first post was, today's the day I quit my job to go travel. And I think it was a picture of our kitchen and a picture of like a cat friend that lived down the street. And that was like it. I haven't like adjusted. It's still there because I feel like it's like a museum relic at this point. I won't change it.
You have like a
yeah. But no, it's part of the history. Everybody has to start there. And everybody has to get through that, because it's not, you have to like learn as you go and learn the process and learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you before you can get to where your blog posts are good and people are reading them. And then you can think about things like growing your traffic and eventually monetizing. But that all takes time. And it's hard to be patient sometimes.
Yeah, I think we all hear the term authentic so often, but it is hard, especially in such a saturated space, to really know who you are and what your authenticity is, when a lot of the times, especially I think we both know with like writing for SEO, it's really easy to just get stuck like kind of copying what everyone else does, like top 5 this, top 5 that, you know, and not really having your authentic voice. And I think that's something that you guys do so well. And I think that's why you have the following that you do.
I think so too. I mean, it sounds like I'm shooting my own horn, but no, I do think it's because my whole goal when I'm writing is I want it to sound the same way that I talk. And so the best compliment that I get is when a reader like meets me in person for the first time, and they're like, oh my God, you're exactly how I imagined you. Or like, oh my God, you sound exactly like you do on your blog. I mean, now we have our podcast, so people know what we actually sound like now, but that's the best compliment for me. And I kind of realized that it took like a year to realize that I needed to sound more like myself in person and less like this like writerly authority. Because I was like thinking about like writing an English paper. I wanted to sound like I knew what I was talking about. But that's not how I talk to my friends or my family when I'm like, oh my God, you have to go here and try this. So I tried to I had to remove all that and start to just talk like I normally do. Like I say like a lot, and I say like a lot in my blog posts. You know what I mean? Like that all comes through. So that took a while, but I do feel like that is one of my strengths as a blogger, which, you know, I do feel good about. I'm also really like unapologetically self-confident. So that also comes into play.
I want to quickly jump back into this honeymoon of your guys's and ask Jeremy a couple questions, because as Lia said, Jeremy, you didn't do a lot of, or you hadn't done any international travel up to this honeymoon. So what were some of the things that went through your mind, or some of the things that you had to adjust to on this first month of travel on your year-long honeymoon?
Oof. Well, let's see. The thing that really sticks out was we had this gigantic PDF.
50 plus pages.
We had split up like, you do Colombia, I'll do Ecuador. We'll like tag team Peru, and
that was as far as we got.
Yeah,
3 months.
But anyway, we if you look at the PDFs, like Lia's most of the 50 pages. It's just everything, not like to the day, but like the finest detail. And then Ecuador was like Galapagos are cool. And here are flight
You
tickets.
looked up what to eat. You had a lot of suggestions for food.
So I think my biggest adjustment was like the full scope of logistics, which I got really good at, and now I do it for all of our trips. But I think that was the biggest thing, was like, you can't just show up, you know. I mean, you can, but not for us.
I remember you stepping off that plane. First of all, you were...
Oh, yeah. I was wearing, like, a down jacket in
Cartagena in July.
In July.
It was, like, 90 degrees, and he steps off the plane in a down jacket. So you were sweating bullets from, like, the first minute. And then we spent the whole first day crying because we realized that we had given everything up and put everything in storage and ruined our lives. And then it was, like, a month straight of just, like, anxiety. You were such a nervous wreck.
I know, but then I found, you know, we talk about this on our podcast on Colombia. There's Colombian expression, tranquilo, where like it's a response to everything. It's like saying it's chill. And so we found our tranquilo, and I think now whenever
Where did you find it specifically? What was the moment?
What are you talking about?
We have a podcast episode, and there's like a whole thing about the moment you found your tranquilo.
I forgot.
Okay, it was when I got rescued off of a waterfall.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe you forgot about me getting rescued off of a waterfall. Anyway, that's on a podcast. But yes, he was like super nervous, super anxious. And then we learned that there's like such a thing as like travel magic. Like things kind of just work out if you like go with the flow a little bit and like trust the people around you and trust like, I don't know. It sounds super hippie, but it's like just go with it and like things will work out. And like that's something that we weren't used to because we were like 50 pages of travel planning, and then you know we had to throw that out the window after like the first like month or two. Like that just didn't help at all. I mean, it helped, but it didn't last as long as we thought. So it was a big adjustment. We have a whole how to plan a trip post, and it goes through everything that we use to create those documents. And I think there's a downloadable template on there too. So yeah, we definitely are still. We're still in that life. It's just not as detailed as it maybe used to be.
Yeah, there was like by the day, and then we realized pretty quickly in Colombia that like it's just not going to happen. Like we're never going to wake up at 5 a.m. Like
Never.
who are we kidding?
Never once.
Yeah.
I think there's also a lot to be said for not attaching yourself to the end result of those plans. Like the plans are kind of an optimistic thing when it doesn't end up, which it never does, going to plan. We've just learned to let that go, I think.
Is that when you're talking about? Is that when are you talking specifically about Machu Picchu?
Yeah, that was a good lesson. Yeah, we tried to hike Machu Picchu and had to turn around and hike back on the second day. So that was fun.
Well, it is really high in elevation. It's a lot more difficult than I think a lot of people think it's going to be.
We're also just really bad hikers.
Yeah. We're not good at things.
So you guys spent an entire year on this honeymoon. How many countries did you go to? Did you stay mostly in South America, or where were you off to?
I don't know
I think it's 14. I think I think it's 14.
We didn't count at one point.
Yeah.
So we spent 6 months in South America, and then after the Machu Picchu failure, which I know I kind of glossed over it, but it was actually like a really pivotal moment for us. It was like really kind of ruined our vibe in South America. Yeah. And so we decided we wanted something totally different. So we went to Europe, and it was like December. So it was like Christmas market season. So we literally went from like South America backpacking to like eating our way through Europe Christmas markets, which was great. And then my grandfather faked his own death, which is a whole other thing. Weird story there, which I won't get into. And then so we went back to the States to help with that for a while. We were actually in your neck of the woods for a little bit in LA. And then we kind of just like floated around and stayed on people's couches for like 3 or 4 months, trying to find cheap flights and somewhere else to go. And then eventually we got a house sitting gig in Mexico. We were there for like a month hanging out with some really cute dogs. And then Mexico for like a month or two, and then a couple weeks in Costa Rica, just enough time for me to get a really bad ear infection and land up in the hospital. And then we came back. So yeah. Oh, and yeah, while we were in France, you got a BMW stuck in a castle. So that was another fun little thing that happened.
It was 14.
I'm assuming that one's on the blog too.
Yeah.
Yes, all on the blog, and we have 3 podcast episodes just about our honeymoon, because that's how long it took for us to go through the whole thing. 3 like hour-long episodes where we talk about the whole thing. And Jeremy does an excellent impression of my grandfather, who is still alive. He's 97 as of this month.
for those people that are maybe interested in doing what you guys did, do you have any advice that you could offer for other people that are wanting to quit their jobs and start a blog, other than the ones that you already mentioned?
I think that, you know, if you are the kind of person where it makes you nervous to not have a plan, make a plan before you quit your job, right? Like, don't just dive into it without any kind of financial savings. Like, I worked for a few months to try to get back enough savings so that I had that emergency fund. I also waited to quit until I was basically, when you added our paychecks together, like, he was covering rent and I was covering everything else with the blog, but like, there was no wiggle room. So that was bare minimum for us. So I waited until we had our bare minimum of expenses covered before I quit. If it was less than that and we were eating into our savings, that might be okay if we had, you know, a whole bunch of savings, but at the time we didn't, because we had just traveled for a year and spent them all. So yeah, I think for me, having, like, knowing that there's not financial stability, because if anything unexpected would have happened, we could have been, you know, screwed. But like, knowing that you have bare minimum covered and that somebody has a stable job, and health insurance and that kind of thing, that really helps my anxiety with that. And then just like committing to yourself. I will say, yes, it's scary quitting, but nothing like lit a fire under my butt like just being panicked about money. Like, knowing that there was nothing else, knowing that I didn't have another job, knowing that if something were to happen, we wouldn't be in a good position, really lit the fire, and made me work like crazy until we got to a point where we could breathe and relax. And I'm not the kind of person that likes working 40 hours a week. My goal was to not have to do that. But when I first started, I was working like 60, 80 hours a week, kind of like you are when, you know, because you're a teacher. So it was rough for the first like 6 months to a year. I wasn't a very good friend. I was always working. But I don't know. I really had that commitment. Like, I knew that was my dream, that I wanted to do it, and I really went for it. And it did work out. And I think that, you know, having that goal in mind and just going after it unapologetically is great, but also like know when you've made it. Like, be able to know when you can take a step back and start to breathe and start to spend all that money that you've been not touching because you've been scared, and like, you know, when you can stop working on the weekends and that kind of thing. And I think having that goal in mind and knowing when you're going to be able to hit it also really helps with feeling overwhelmed, because you're working constantly and everything is very scary and unstable.
Now, at what point were you able to kind of stop doing that 60 and 70 hours a week and work a little bit less, but still get your goals completed that you had?
For me, it was like another year. So like a year of being full-time. Then I was able to kind of like reliably know how much money I would probably have coming in. So I was able to financially forecast the next year. So basically, I'm the kind of person where I set one goal at a time. So I have one goal for the year, and then I break that down into, you know, quarterly and monthly action plans. So my one goal for year one was make enough money to live off of. And that was like everything that I was doing was just for that goal. I kind of ended up being able to hit that in the first year. And so my goal for the next year was to be able to take a step back. So that's what I then ended up focusing on. So at a certain point, probably, yeah, it was about a year. I was able to work less, set more like work-life boundaries, and then eventually start hiring so that I could delegate to a team, so that all the work that I had been doing just by myself, I could start spreading out to other freelance contractors who were able to help me. So that was really great.
And I think you calculated that, like, based on like passive income and stuff that you pass off. Like,
yeah,
if I stop, these will still go this much, so now I can step back. There's a lot of calculation involved.
I didn't actually test that theory for another year, like taking a month off and just seeing if the whole thing would come crashing down. That took another year, but now I feel better. Of course, that was all before quarantine and everything happened, so that's different.
Yeah, and speaking of quarantine, you know, what are you guys doing right now? Have you like shift focus? Are you pivoting some of the stuff and content that you're creating? How are you kind of like proceeding right now? Because as I know, and you know, and I think most people that have blogs, it's kind of a hard time for the travel industry right now, and people are reading less. Has that affected you guys and Practical Wanderlust?
Oh yeah, our traffic and income fell off a cliff. Like it was down 80%. So the first month of quarantine, all I did was just lay around and cry. That's all I did. That was fun. He was like working like crazy, and I was just downstairs crying. And then eventually, I think I was really just grieving like this amazing life that I had been living, and I don't know that it'll ever come back, honestly, and I don't know if it'll come back for me because I'm going to be having kids probably in the next year or so, so I think I was like saying goodbye to some things, but what I ended up doing on my blog, on the travel blog, is creating like virtual tours. So I created some really fun virtual tours that helps people at home be able to take a day and kind of escape when they weren't able to go anywhere. And that was really helpful. And then I found some other outlets. So, well, Jeremy, we both found outlets. Jeremy started baking and doing a lot of like cooking. And I actually have some here that I can show you. I started playing with plants. So this is my new hobby. I'm very obsessed with succulents now, and I have been working on a new site semi-related to the plant thing. So that's in process. It's kind of, again, it's like a fun hobby that I'll probably get really hooked on, and we'll see what happens. So I don't want to say anything yet because I don't know if it's just going to be my private like fun hobby thing or if it'll go somewhere, but that is in the works. We've been working on our podcast, and yeah, it's been a lot for me of like getting back into the flow of things, whereas Jeremy's like working like crazy because he's teaching online, and that's a whole other
thing.
It's a whole thing. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's been
I can't imagine that side of stuff for you being a teacher. I know that I have a nephew and a sister in college, and I know that realm of the world has gotten very different for many, many people. It must be a difficult transition.
Yeah, it's weird.
We do have a big help in our house, which is we have a puppy. Yeah. So she's been like a big, you want to grab her? Or she's laying down. She's been the best. Like, I don't know what we would do without her. Quarantine dogs, definitely a must have. Oh, hi.
We've actually been, oh, hi.
She's sleepy. Sorry we woke you up. Sorry. Anyway, she's the best.
We've been thinking about fostering a dog here at my house as well. So not sure when it will happen, but we're definitely thinking about it. It is nice to have an animal around
it is.
It's been
cheery.
Is she dead? What's happening? Anyway, I swear we're better like animal parents than we seem right now.
She's so sleepy.
Well, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions just about like your favorite travel destinations and things like that. So I just have like a list of kind of like rapid fire that I'll go through. Where are you guys planning on traveling? Well, first I'll ask, have you guys been outside of your town yet during the pandemic? Have you gone anywhere, just like driven around?
Last week was the first time. Last week we drove about an hour or two north. We went through San Francisco and over the Golden Gate Bridge into Point Reyes National Seashore, and we found just like a strip of beach that was nobody really there, and we like took Mulan on her leash and like just let her kind of play in the water. Yeah, and that was our first time leaving the 5-mile perimeter of our house in the last 60 days. So that was really exciting. Yeah,
that's a beautiful area. I've been up there too, and I love that stretch of beach. And there's so much like wildlife everywhere, it seems like right now too. I think when people are
a coyote like on the side of the road. It's crazy.
That's cool.
Anyway, that's very exciting.
Do you guys have any bucket list destinations that are next for you once we're able to travel again?
I have a few that I want to revisit for sure.
That's not bucket list. Bucket list means you've never been there.
I know what bucket
that
list.
Doesn't count. Okay. What are they?
You clearly want to start.
Japan, Sri Lanka, the Arctic. I really want to go back to the Arctic. Like now that I've been to the North Arctic, I want to go to the Antarctic. So that's like my ultimate bucket list. What's on yours?
I want to go to like southeastern Africa and like the Serengeti and Lake Victoria. Is that the lake there? Yeah. Do like the whole safari thing.
Yeah, the big 5. Yeah. We really want. That was actually something we were considering doing this summer, but
did not happen.
Not this year.
Yeah, a lot of the African nations are closed to tourists right now. But yeah, when you guys want to go to Africa, let me know, because I have a lot of companies that I've worked with over the last couple of years there that are just fantastic, and
Amazing.
we can take you to see all the animals.
Yay! Yes.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, more wildlife, ethical wildlife travel, I think definitely is something I want to do more and more of at home.
Now, do you guys have a favorite place in California that you recommend for people that you just like go back to again and again, or that you want to go back to?
The Central Coast. I didn't ask you, but yes, right?
Yeah, I'm from Morro Bay, California, and that whole area of like SLO County is gorgeous.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's like, so his hometown, Morro Bay, is this adorable little coastal town with like, it's marine sanctuary, and there's a whole bunch of otters just like swimming around in the bay. It's really cute, really charming. And then all around that area in San Luis Obispo County, there's a whole bunch of other great places to see pretty close by. So one of my favorites is Paso Robles, which is a wine country. It's gorgeous, it's inexpensive, it's down to earth, it's just really great. And driving to get there, either from LA or from San Francisco, is just a stunning, beautiful drive down Highway 1, which that was our most recent post. So I've been thinking about it a lot and looking at a lot of pictures. And that's why we hopped in a car and drove up Highway 1 last weekend, because I've been doing a lot of Highway 1 research. But anyway, yeah, that whole area and then up into like Big Sur is just like bucket list, lifetime destination.
I'll agree with you there. I actually spent a couple days in the end of December in SLOCAL, and like I usually just drive up the PCH. I don't stop and like spend a couple days, and I stayed in Cambria, and I just had like the best time ever. I got to see the elephant seals. I went hiking. I did like, I stopped at like a local honey farm. Yeah, it was just amazing. It's so beautiful there. And I'll put links to Lia's and Jeremy's post in the description too. And I have a video out on Highway 1 too, so you guys can see all of those in the links below too. But yeah, it's a beautiful place. I highly recommend it. And yeah, go check out their podcast on it too, because it's a good one.
Did you get a lullaberry pie while you were in Cambria?
I didn't.
You have to go back. It's like this like hybrid of a raspberry and a blackberry, and they make it into pie at this place called Lynn's Bakery. And anyway, it's great.
It's so good.
Sounds delicious.
We're always here for like food recommendations.
Yes. Well, I can always take more food recommendations. So that being said, now that we're talking about food, is there a country or a city that you visited that has like the best food memories for you from your travels?
Cartagena, Colombia.
Really?
And Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, we actually have this conversation a lot. This comes up pretty frequently for us. I feel like Savannah was our #1 best food trip that we've ever done.
Yeah.
Like, because usually it's like we'll go to a place and like most of the food is pretty good and we'll be like, wow, that's really good. Every single thing we ate in Savannah was amazing. Everything, all of it. Every piece of anything that I put in my mouth in Savannah, any food, any drink, anything, it was amazing. Yeah. Like, amazing.
I'd say Savannah and also Cartagena.
I think Belgium gets like a shout out. France, obviously, like, come on. Germany is up there.
Now you're just listing.
I'm just listing places I like to, now I just want to.
As far as dishes go, the apple pie at Winkel 43 in Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. But no, Savannah.
You know it's good if you can remember the name of the restaurant, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of Leopold's ice cream in Savannah, invented Tutti Frutti ice cream. And, like, I never wanted to eat Tutti Frutti ice cream because the only Tutti Frutti thing I ever had was, like, a Jelly Belly, and I was not a fan. But Tutti Frutti ice cream at Leopold's in Savannah will change your life. Like, absolutely. I have strong feelings.
Well, you guys, this has been such a fun chat, and I just want to thank you both for coming on and chatting with me and all of our friends that are watching here today. Please let everyone know where they can find you on the web and on social media.
PracticalWanderlust.com.
Yes. Instagram at Practical Wanderlust, Facebook at Practical Wanderlust, Twitter
at Practical Wander.
Practical Wander.
You can also
don't follow us on Twitter.
You can also listen to our podcast on like Apple, iTunes,
it's
Spotify.
Called Practical Wanderlust. Yeah.
Yeah, so everywhere at Practical Wanderlust. I hope you guys all follow them because they are one of my favorite travel couples, and you're gonna love their hilarious, you know, tales of travel everywhere that they go. So it's a good time. And thanks, you guys. Again, if there's anything that you want to say before we jump off, please go ahead. And if not,
God, do you have any like words of wisdom prepared? I didn't.
Eat, pray, love.
Whatever you feel bad about, it's okay. There we go. Yes.
it is okay. And those are some great last words, Lia. Again, thanks guys so much for joining. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you are new here on YouTube, and I will see you guys all very soon.